let's get started. Thank you everyone for being here today. I'm showing a good group logging in here. This is the Yuba Forest Network's second quarterly stakeholder meeting. We had one back in June also, and we saw a lot of your faces there. But just to kick this off real quick, I'd like to reintroduce this project in case anyone wasn't on that June call. So my name is Allison Thompson. I am one of two Forest Health Watershed Coordinators at the South Yuba River Citizens League. And I also split my time with Camptonville Community Partnership. And then Andrew Salmon is here as well. I'll let him introduce himself real quick.
Good morning, everyone. Andrew Salmon, the Forest Conservation Program Manager with the South Yuba River Citizens League, and great to be here.
Great, thanks, Andrew. So yeah, just real quick, the Yuba Forest Network is aimed at connecting resources and forest health practitioners across the watershed with the ultimate goal of supporting current projects and developing future cross-boundary forest health projects. And so Andrew and I are here to facilitate this group, to keep things organized and keep forward momentum going. But know that we are here for you, for all the stakeholders in the room here. So your input and your participation is critical to this group's success. So that's all really to say thank you for being here today and for actively participating and for your energy around forest health and the watershed and all the great work you're already doing. So thanks again for being here. You all should be able to, those on your computer, you can see my screen share with the slides. Thumbs up, is that correct? Okay, great. See if I can go to the next one, there we go. Yeah, so we have a fairly full agenda today. We have some neat resources to share and discuss. So first off, we'll run through a quick welcome and introductions. Andrew and I will report out on a few action items from last meeting that we took on. We've picked a rough theme for today. So as this group begins to take shape, we want to dive deeper into some resources that this larger network could provide or develop. Something that could be most effective perhaps as a larger scale tool. So we are starting with a presentation of a mapping and planning tool, and then we'll look to you to discuss in smaller groups. What other tools or resources do you currently use and could share with others? Or what else would be useful to taking on those dream projects that we talked about in the first meeting? And then at the end, we'll come back to the large group. We'll have time to discuss these ideas a little further, see what you came up with in your small groups. We'll leave time for announcements, and we will review some next steps for the project moving forward. And so with that, you know Andrew and myself now, so let's dive into more introductions. So since we have a large group here today, if you're logged into the Zoom platform, please go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat box. We'd like you to share your name, the organization or agency or business or other groups that you are representing today. And then answer this question for us. It should be up on your screen now. What is your favorite place in the Yuba River watershed? You don't have to tell us exactly. If maybe it's a secret spot, but maybe it's a place with a good view, great memory, somewhere that inspires you. So go ahead, type your introduction in the chat box. And if there is anyone on the phone, you can please go ahead and unmute yourself right now, since you don't have chat box access, and just let us know you're here. And again, *6 should help if you're having trouble unmuting on the phone.
Good morning, Amy. This is Paul Rowan, Sierra County Supervisor.
Hi, Paul. Thank you. Anyone else on the phone? All right. Seeing a few good spots coming in. Larry Land Crag below Bowman Lake. I don't actually know that. Oh, Julie, you have a secret spot. That's good. Great. Okay, well, keep on entering your introductions in the chat box, and we can keep on moving if that's everyone on the phone. All right, so we'll move on to a few action items that Andrew and I have been working on that we talked about at the first meeting. So first, let me switch my screen share, so give me a second. But we have set up an initial website for the Yuba Forest Network. Actually, before I switch the screen share, you should be able to see on the presentation, the website is still, it's live. It is still a little bit in development. So we are, eventually the web address will be yubaforestnetwork.org, but currently, if you'd all like to go to the web page and click along with me, you can go to yubariver.org/YFN-draft. And then you'll enter the password YFN draft, where YFN and D are capitalized. And that should give you access right now. And then I will share, by the time we have the meeting notes sent out, we'll have this all set up on the Yuba Forest Network actual page. So is that working for everyone? Maybe a thumbs up or a nod once you're in, and I'll work on sharing my screen as well. Where did that go? That's fun. Oh, there it is. Okay. Can you see that on my screen at least? No, you can't.
It's working now.
Oh, it is? Okay, good. I think we just had a delay. Great. Okay, so yeah, if you're able to click along, that's great. Go ahead and explore. But yeah, this is we've set up an initial website for the Yuba Forest Network. It'll certainly develop over time, but we want to show you what we have set up so far. So this is currently being hosted on Circle's website because that was just the easiest way to get it up quickly. But as this grows, we do plan to migrate to a fully separate website. And the communication subgroup, which we'll talk about in a minute, will kind of help develop this website and really develop it into a functional resource sharing and networking hub. That's the ultimate intent of this. So I can just walk through the website real quick just to kind of show you what we have there. This is on what you should be able to see on the screen share there is our the home page. So at the top we have news and announcements, and that's like at the end of today's meeting, the end of last meeting, we had space for people to announce and make any announcements they have around their forest health project. So you'll see Simone last time mentioned her master's thesis project is looking for land and water managers to interview. And then the North Yuba Forest Partnership recently released an interactive story map. So that lives right at the top, and we'll keep that updated regularly. So we'll have, like I said, we'll have space for announcements at the end of the meeting, and feel free if you have something come up, send it to us and we can post it up here. Then we just have a little bit of background about the project. And down here we have a forest health events calendar. Right now we just have the quarterly meetings on there, and then as soon as we get the subgroup meetings scheduled, those will be up as well. But we want to include all your events also. So if you have something right now, send us an email. We're working on setting up a form on the website that you'll be able to submit events through. But for now, send us an email and we can get that on the calendar. And hopefully this is a great resource people can come check out and say, I wonder what's going on in the Yuba watershed and forest health world. So that's on the home page there. Let's go back to the top. So other pages we have, oh, my internet's slow. Hopefully this works. Let me know when the next page loads up. This is the quarterly meeting materials. Is that loading on the screen share? No. Time delay? Yes. Okay, great. So what lives here really is just, like it says, the materials from these quarterly meetings. We'll keep this updated. So from our first meeting, we have agenda, meeting notes, and the recording. And that's actually a good reminder. Today's meeting is also being recorded. So that will be up on, that and the meeting notes will be up on the website as well, but you can see, you can click here and we can pull up today's agenda. So that's that page. The subgroup page, as it loads, for now it is just descriptions of the subgroups we're working on developing, and then a little link to, if it goes today, a link to some one-pagers with just a little more information that we've put together, kind of describing each subgroup. So you'll be able to access that there. And I think over time, as the subgroups develop more materials, we can host them here as well. The resources page, we'll give that a second to load, but it is meant to house links to useful resources that others have put together, and also space for resources that the Yuba Force Network will develop over time. So I just threw up a few links real quick right now. If you have anything, any resources that you've developed that you'd like us to link to, or others that you know of, please let us know, and we'll put it up here. Hopefully a useful list here. And then last up, the partner projects page. So this is a place we'd like to feature your work beyond just the link on the resources page. So any work, any projects going on across the watershed. We received a couple of submissions of projects people are working on currently, but we'd love to feature more. So please send us your projects with a short description and even a picture if you have it. You can see we have so far we have the South Yuba Rim fuel break, we have some aquatic organism passage, Forest Biomass Business Center, and the North Yuba Forest Partnership. So we'd love to have a much more extensive list. And this, I think, is really a kind of a good start while we build a larger project map. But this is a good list. Just people can look through and learn a bit more about what's going on in the watershed. So again, yeah, you can submit your project. Right now it's just an email. Well, again, we're working on the forms, but let us know about your projects. And I want to come back to the resources page real quick. Realize I skipped over one aspect, and it is loading so slowly. Any questions so far as we're poking through the website? I mean, it's fairly self-explanatory. I wanted to just kind of show you guys how it works, or what's on there. And we're certainly open to input too, if you have suggestions for other things you'd like to see on the website. Absolutely. So on this resources page, over here we have a space for the YFN directory. And we discussed putting this together at our last meeting. So if you're looking for some help on a project or someone to collaborate with, the goal is you can come here to this directory, see who has what expertise or skills they're willing to share, and make that connection. So this directory, it'll end up as a spreadsheet that you'll be able to access here on this page. It'll be on a password protected. It'll link to a password protected page, and once we have that up, I'll share the password out on our email list. Just because it's voluntary, but it does have your email address and phone number if you're willing to share that. So we just don't want it out there for anyone in the general public to access, but everyone in the network will have access. So right now, because no one's filled it out yet, we don't have the spreadsheet. But if you click on, if you're clicking along with me, if you would click on the button that says join the Yuba Forest Network directory, that should open up a form. And if you could take a minute or two to fill that out right now, that would be awesome. And we can start putting this together. So we're just looking for your name, who you're representing, and any skills or expertise that you are willing to share with others in the group. And then contact info, how you'd like folks to contact you. If you could take a minute to do that, that would be great. And are there any more questions on that?
Hey, Allison, this is Jamie. Yeah. Maybe I missed something, but was there supposed to be a pop-up or something at yubaforestnetwork.org asking for a password? Or when I open it on Google Chrome, it just sends me to the circle page, and there's not any of the links that you're going to.
Yeah. So where did I put that? Yeah. So right now, yubaforestnetwork.org actually goes to kind of a placeholder page. So to click along with me right now, go to yubariver.org / here, we can put it, actually, I can put it in the chat box. That is, should have done that from the beginning. Yubariver.org / YFN-draft. You got that? And then there's that password, YFN draft. Is that working?
Yeah, thanks. That's working.
Great. Okay. Well, great. If there aren't any other questions on the website right now, and thanks again for filling that in. We'll you can continue to add your info, and hopefully this will become a great resource for all of us moving forward. So now I think you've heard enough from me for now. So Andrew will come on now and talk about some of the subgroups we're forming.
Great. Thanks so much, Allison.
Yeah.
So after our last meeting, we talked about how we're going to generate more content for this group. And Allison sent out surveys for individual subgroups. And we received some great feedback and ended up going with, I would say, more topical subgroups rather than regional. And we did receive some support for regional subgroups, but at this time there just wasn't enough interest. And hopefully this evolves in the future for those who did want to see, say, a breakdown by population center and trying to form groups around that. I think it's just such a large area that we didn't generate enough interest there. And so what we did come out with, though, was we developed 4 different groups: a strategy development group, communications, workforce development, and then sort of a permitting. And permitting may not be the best title for that group yet, but I'm just going to take a quick run through and talk about sort of the process here and what we envision for these subgroups. I think we're hoping that there can be monthly meetings with a smaller sort of working setting. And that first strategy development group, we had the greatest interest. And some of what was talked about last time, Carrie Monahan from the Sierra Fund threw out this idea of building a glossary of forest health terms that maybe includes desired conditions and objectives. And how could that really shape this group and the framework for prioritizing community-based projects? And so that's really, I think, if we were to write a mission statement, that's going to be the group that does that. And then that second group, the communications team, we're hoping will work with us to continue to build out the website. And we've talked also about creating some sort of communication platform. I know listservs were thrown out there. We've looked at Podio and a few other apps. At this time, we haven't quite figured out what does that participation look like, and is it going to be a tool that's actually used? And I think this comms group can determine that. And part of the comms group is also going to be the hosting the field tours and then also an education component. And we had a lot of interest from Sierra Streams Institute on this end because that's really their, I mean, they've taken a strong position in creating content there for the watershed in terms of forest health. And so trying to support their ongoing efforts, but also developing new content. And then workforce development was the next one. And I think this is one that almost applies to everyone here. And we'd love to see sort of expanded. So increasing, trying to actually nail down where are the needs and then supporting some sort of program that will actually build relationships with local employers and develop those skill sets. And then finally, this permitting group, and it's still in a loose stages, but we did seem to have some active participants with some great feedback. And the idea here is to increase dialogue and coordination with some of our local agencies. And this is, we're taking a lot of this is based off of the Sierra Meadows partnership, and we're trying to look at their successes and build off of them, but put it in obviously a very, very different ecosystem slash kind of context. And the hope here is that we can sort of consolidate some of our asks, some of our sort of maybe frustrations or just pieces that one entity had, trying to figure out what are the commonalities that are creating some of our bottlenecks, and then coming together to have those conversations with CAL FIRE and California Air Resources Board. And I know we have some of that representation on the call today, but the hope is to really come together with a specific list and maybe try to figure out how to streamline some of those permitting processes. And so with that, we sent out when to meet surveys for each of those subgroups, and hopefully we'll have dates set in the next week here. And we'd really like to get these launched and off the ground in the next 2 weeks. So survey respondents have been contacted, and if you'd still like to join those groups, it's absolutely open-ended. And Allison, did you want to speak to that at all about how to join those groups?
There we go, unmuted. For right now, just send me an email if you're interested in any of the subgroups that Andrew mentioned. We'll probably, if you already, you filled out the poll and you got the when to meet survey about scheduling the first meeting, please respond to that as soon as possible. We'd like to get those scheduled ideally by next Monday, because some of them, the best date for meeting was next Friday. Hopefully that will still work with people's schedules. So get that in ASAP, and yeah, if you're interested, just shoot me an email, Allison@yubariver.org, and we'll get you included in the subgroups. Thanks. Anything else on that, Andrew? You ready? Okay. Great. Well, yeah, thanks, Andrew. And so next up on the agenda, oops, there we go. So yeah, as we build this group and share resources, because of the work that we all do, I think one of the most important resources that we can share is geographic info, maybe some kind of mapping tool. So today we want to show one project that is going on across the northern part of the state, and is making its way into the Yuba watershed. So we have Holly Jorgensen of the Sacramento River Watershed Program and Amy Oste of 34 North here, and they are going to present on their work on building a watershed scale data portal and mapping tool, the Yuba County Fuels Reduction and Forest Restoration Planning Tool. I'm sure some of you have probably seen this tool before, and some have not. So hopefully we all come away learning something today. We'll have time for questions at the end of the presentation. So go ahead and if you have questions as we're going along, go ahead and type them in the chat box, or you're welcome to unmute at the end and ask questions. So I think with that, I will try to unshare my screen here, and then I will pass it over to Holly and Amy Are you guys on? I think I saw you on the line there. Oops. And the screen share should be turned on, so you can share your screen when you're ready.
Sure. Thanks, everyone. Happy Friday. I am Holly Jorgensen with the Sacramento River Watershed Program. And Allison asked if I could share some information about our organization and talk just a little bit about the background, how we got to this project. So I'm going to take about 5 minutes at the beginning here. I have a simple PowerPoint presentation I will share, and then I'll let Amy do her part. So let's see, I'll do screen share with, there we go. How's that? Is everyone seeing hopefully my PowerPoint? Not all my junk on my screen? All right. There we go. Let me rearrange some things so I can see here. All right, well, thanks everyone. So my organization, the Sacramento River Watershed Program, was formed in 1996 as an effort to bring stakeholders together to share information and resources and address water-related issues within the Sacramento River Watershed. Let's remember to do the PowerPoint. There we go. So we are a 501c3 NGO that works with watershed partners and communities to cooperatively address natural resource issues by basically helping to build capacity wherever and however it is needed most. Before I joined SRWP, I worked with some small local watershed groups and witnessed the challenges of trying to manage thousands of acres of land under multiple ownerships with limited funding. And trying to implement complementary programs and plans throughout the watershed was extremely difficult without a shared understanding of watershed conditions and support for coordinated management efforts. So the Sacramento River Watershed Program has been monitoring watershed conditions and coordinating with others monitoring the Sacramento River Watershed and its major tributaries since 1998. And when I joined SRWP, our technical coordinator, Stephen McCord, was leading an effort to develop a cost-effective coordinated monitoring program in the Sacramento River and its tributaries to identify causes, effects, and extensive problems and inform management decisions. And at that time, the development of several regional and statewide monitoring portals were underway. And we thought that a regional portal could improve the effectiveness of management in the Sacramento River watershed and then serve as a hub for information and a foundation for collaborative efforts by connecting users to data, funding projects, and connecting them to each other. So in 2015, SRWP partnered with the State Water Resources Control Board and 34 North to develop a data portal customized for the Sacramento River watershed. We worked with stakeholders to identify management questions, access relevant data and information, and develop a portal that provides the best available information about conditions in the Sacramento River watershed. And we quickly learned that our partners didn't just need access to data and information, they needed help figuring out what data and information they needed and how to use that data and information to make informed management decisions. So the Sacramento River Watershed Data Program is a collaborative effort to support restoration and management activities throughout the Sacramento River watershed. And this effort is led by SRWP and 34 North. The goal is to build a comprehensive data program for all Sacramento River watershed stakeholders to use and to use for data management, communication coordination, spatial analysis, project prioritization, education outreach, and more. So in 2017, we signed an MOU, a Memorandum of Understanding, with the Butte County Fire Safe Council to work together to advance a community-driven effort to enhance collaborative engagement, to strategically implement fuels reduction and forest restoration efforts, and to utilize data, information, and tools to inform and increase wildfire mitigation activities throughout Butte County. In 2018, we received CAL FIRE CCI grant funding to build on the Butte County CWPP, the Community Wildfire Protection Plan, to develop a county-wide strategic planning process by making data available as a web-based platform with interactive maps and decision support tools. So the Butte County CWPP funding and implementation project allows stakeholders to visualize data, information, and projects at multiple scales, and then they can use that information and that vision to identify where opportunities and challenges exist and work together to identify solutions and to prioritize areas. And this pilot project was recognized as a CAL FIRE CCI grant success story and shared in the annual report for legislatures and the governor's office. So since then, we have been working with agencies, organizations, and regional groups to support collaborative efforts and to build regional capacity to prioritize, develop, and implement projects that improve watershed health, and then, of course, to help to mitigate the impacts of wildfires in the Sacramento River watershed. And these efforts are taking shape, as Allison mentioned, within critical areas in the watershed, including Battle Creek, the Pitt River, and here in the Yuba. So I'm going to turn it over to Amy Oste with 34 North so that she can show you how we have been aggregating, organizing, and displaying data and information to help communities mitigate the impacts of wildfire and restore forest health. And then, of course, we will answer questions afterward. Let me stop sharing my screen.
Amy, I'm not sure if you're talking, but you are muted. Checking.
Okay, can you hear me now? Hello?
Yes, yeah, now we can.
So, oh my gosh, you just missed all of that. Sorry, everybody. I'll start again. I had a really good joke in there. I was talking about how I spilled smoothie on my shirt and Baby Yoda. It was good. Anyway, my name's Amy Oste. I'm with 34 North, and I'm going to give you a short tour of the Yuba County planning platform. And what we can do is go through it just step by step, and then we'll have a short question and answer session if it's needed. But anyways, like Holly said, we've been working on these data platforms since 2015 in the Sacramento River watershed. And what is in front of us right now is the Yuba County version that has been established to support Yuba County CWPP efforts and the Camptonville Community Services and other stakeholder driven fuels reduction and forest restoration projects throughout the county. And it is currently password protected, so it's not quite public or been made available to these variety of stakeholders, including people in this group. But you can reach out to Allison to get access if you want to explore it later. All right, so the main components within this is data and access to data. So centralizing all of the data sets that we could possibly find that were relevant to fuels reduction and forest restoration planning and supporting the CWPP process throughout Yuba County. So all of the data coming from various sources, including U.S. Forest Service, FACTS, CAL FIRE, CAL MAPPER, the watershed, anything coming off that's relevant to watershed health, so including streams and hydrology data, so that can be sensors, the CWPP, and then all of the various projects throughout the region. From that, we've compiled all of the data and made it searchable and discoverable so that people can actually use it for collaborative planning or just planning and implementation of a project that your organization is working on. And then also using that data for analysis within the planning process and or for grant applications and outreach with the local stakeholder groups and the public. So right now, the way the site has been organized is that we have access to the data and maps, an interactive version of the Yuba County CWPP. There is a special collaborative workspace where if there's some particular collaborative maps and or data that the work groups need to work together on, they're stuffed here in this section so that you don't have to use the entire site to accomplish some easy tasks like talking about a data set or a particular project. And then there's the extensive project database. So right now we're looking at just a little snapshot of county's information regarding projects and conditions. All of the projects have been extensively outlined, and these just highlight what's new and new projects. So the Yuba Foothills Healthy Forest Project is broken up into the various categories of restoration, collaborative work, and fuels reduction. There's some background information for the CWPP for preparing for wildfire that uses information coming out of the California Fire Safe Council's outreach about the Yuba County Defensible Space Program. And then there's extensive sections for each of the Yuba County Fire Protection Districts. And what these do is they go in and do an analysis of all of the critical conditions and or infrastructure and community information for each one of those districts, so that those looking to just do projects can have easy access that's pertinent to the information relative to their immediate area. So I'll just quickly click on a project here so you can get a sense of how the projects are laid out. So the summary of the projects are there. Here is the full GIS and mapping information about those projects that you can click on and get details for. And then the proposed treatments and some of the more important information like total costs and then the project activities. There is a treatment map here where you have access with this particular project work group to go in and make modifications. Under this Analyze tab, you can do additional information like figuring out, for example, a project area analysis. So we want to do another project here right next to that polygon, and this goes and digs into all of the data that's currently been aggregated and starts to give the stakeholders some basic overview. So fire hazards, whose responsibility area, protection, all of the parcels, and then the values. So CAL FIRE often likes to quantify exactly what is being protected in a particular project area. It does an analysis of public lands and administrative analysis like, and this is very commonly asked in the CCI grants and SNC grants, which watershed you're in, the fire protection, and the nearby fuel treatments that are happening, so that if you wanted to reach out and do a cooperative grant planning or just a cooperative implementation, you would know who to contact. Also available in this area, you can do things like the vegetation and fire return interval analysis. So similar, you can just start to look in an area that is of interest. And this goes out and just makes a request and starts to create a report about vegetation types, the life form covers, your tree size, your condition classes, your return intervals. And the way that it's set up is it breaks up your polygons so you know exactly what you're looking at here. So here's all your veg types and where they are dominated using CalVeg, your life form covers, your tree sizes, your condition class. So obviously it's an area in need of restoration, and your return intervals. So all of the details of looking at current conditions within a project area are made available on the fly for either planning and or doing your grant writing. So I would just go back to the home page here and move into data and maps. So that was just working. I was just using that particular project area to do additional analysis. But here in Yuba County, there's already been a lot of work tracking down all of the data and project information, and it's all consolidated here and is available to all stakeholders. Almost, I'd say 100% of the data that's here, minus maybe a couple of projects, are in the public domain. It's just been centralized into this one place. But we do make it a priority so that if you have a project that is not available to the public or you want to keep it among stakeholders, you can make them private, and we have that sharing capability similar to Facebook, where you can just create a group around it. Okay, so what you're seeing here is just a highlight of planning maps and data available to you. So we have LiDAR workspace, risk mapping, and all of the project data. So we've aggregated most of the risk maps that are available from either CAL FIRE or US Forest Service. There's been a lot of effort in doing risk analysis, so we've consolidated those. So when you start to look at a particular project or an area of interest, you have that available. We've done some extensive work to start thinking about biomass analysis, so routing and quantification of biomass projects. You have historic fires, land ownership, slope, county roads. And this just shows you like a snapshot of data, but there's close to 550 data sets on this portal right now. So next you have an interactive map builder, and this is where it's kind of like a tabla rasa. You can do whatever it is that you want. It's set up here, interactive maps, so you can go all the way up into Reading if you wanted, because it is a coordinated program among other counties. You can search for data that's, just right on the boundary here, like Forbes-town, because Butte County is fully implemented, and you would find some ways to coordinate between, there's Forbes-town, sorry, between the two counties or among the forests. So it's not limited to this county, but we try to keep it as clean as possible because there is so much information. Simply add data to map, and this starts to highlight all of the data that you would want to look for any of the projects. We've made sure we've collected the data that will help answer questions about conditions, grant writing, and project implementation. And you can search here for forests, for example, and you'll get a return of the National Forest System. So it's comprehensive, keyword-based. You have access to a bunch of different base maps and saved maps. So if you know there's already something that you're working on, like I was doing the major roads with my districts here, and I just wanted to start with that. it's ready to go. And then you can continue to add on to your map from there. If I wanted to use the fire return interval. And let's just say you still wanted to continue and maybe do an atlas analysis. And this is currently just a way to look at more detailed information. Then you got, start to look at slope. Sorry, I'm outside the boundary of that data set. Slope and other important treatment areas right over there. So estimated canopy cover, ladder fuels, etc. So there's a bunch of different queries and ways to look at the data and information that is normally just available to you as a map layer or a data set that's just flat on your map on the internet. And so this just hopefully lets you dig deeper into some really valuable data sets that are out there. Like the fire return interval departure has a million different ways to filter it and really look at it. Canopy, the LiDAR, EcoObject, other things that many organizations have put a lot of effort into, but they're hard to use in a synthesized way or environment. So that's data and maps. You can share, so you can save any of your maps, title them, and publish it. I want to make it public or just me. Save that. Okay, here's my saved map. And then from here, you can go ahead and share that with anyone that's in your contact list. So you have a mini contact list. Okay, so what's probably pretty relevant to this group is not just the data and access to it so that you can use it for your own investigations and grant writing, but also what's happening in Yuba County currently. So a list of projects, being able to search projects, get a little more information about them, and then figure out who's behind there, and then is there a way for you to coordinate. So this is a comprehensive projects database. It's always growing. It's always changing, and hopefully it will continue to grow into the northern parts, and then some more coordination between the Butte County efforts there. The fire protection district that I spoke about earlier, so each one of these fire protection districts have been profiled. So if you're working within a particular district, all we did was pull out the key information about a particular district and just give it a profile so that it's easy to find that information for grant writing. So your general plan, your infrastructure, your fire hazard severity, your fuels, etc. Comprehensive document library. So any of the research and stuff that's been used, like your risk assessment. This is a very common document used for doing risk analysis. These documents are there and can be shared and used within the groups if you start to explore a way to do particular risk assessments in an area. So just a repository of resources and to help support the idea of best science. And then lastly, there's on the site is the interactive community wildfire protection plan, where we go through, and this is an established document, and we're keeping it live now through the live data. And so this is updated on a regular basis when new projects are added, and there isn't this manual effort anymore. So this is looking at population growth. So like really key data sets that are used within the CWPP are live, and then you can have this fun interactive map story that everyone has become accustomed to as part of a way of telling that story within the county. So you have your risk assessment, project and all your projects, CAL FIRE priority landscapes, you know, really important data sets. And then things like, okay, let's look at historic fire conditions in the county and just break it down so that you have a better understanding of what all of it means. And it's just not in this polygon with a bunch of different colors, et cetera. And then we have a big map book where you can go through and pull from any of these maps. And like I said, everything on the site, you can go back in, you can save it into your own library, or you can share it back and forth to try to be as open, transparent, and collaborative as possible. So that's an overview of the site. Lots going on, but there's a lot that goes into planning and implementation. There's more stuff centered around parcels and parcel management, but we can talk about that type of stuff on another time. And I'll open it up to questions.
Great, thank you, Holly and Amy. That was a lot of great information. Yeah, so like Amy said, if anyone has questions, please go ahead, unmute yourself and ask away or type them in the chat box. So, thanks.
I'll start us off. Hi, Amy. When do you think, so just a few questions, I guess. When do you think that you'll launch the Yuba page is one, and then two, could you talk about any specific examples in Butte County where they use the platform for applying for grants, or have they had successes with that one?
Sure, so a couple of things. The Yuba County right now is, the next step is to do the, well, we were supposed to, like everyone else, to start interacting directly with each of the districts and local stakeholder groups. And so we're figuring out alternative meeting scenarios for that to sign off on things. And then the broader group just figuring out which data they want to keep private, and, you know, just some other little governance considerations. So that's going on right now. And so then I'll go over to Butte County real quick. And I'll give you an example. This one is open to the public, or at least a certain amount of the information is open to the public. And so I'm doing data and maps, just giving you a quick example. So we have this Concal-Magalia Forest Health Grant Workspace, and then we have these project inventories. We have a bunch of different projects that are currently used to collaboratively assess and start to form a cooperative of projects that they want to do for the upcoming CCI grant. Let me find that one project that is probably most relevant for you. So right here is the example of the veg management program. So it was planned using the application to figure out exactly a set of parcels where they wanted to do some veg management, and then submit that for implementation, an implementation grant. And now it's being used for tracking the status as they do the outreach with each of the individual stakeholder group or landowners, excuse me. So those are two examples of projects currently underway in Butte County, where it's a coordination between not just the landowners and CAL FIRE and the Fire Safe Council, and I do believe the RCD and some others are involved for the implementation of that grant. And then we have that other workspace where we're doing this grant workspace. And the way this is working is that people are going in and drawing exactly how they want to, if they have projects that they want to include, and this is the boundary where they want to start looking and doing more acreage. And so you can see where we've started to pinpoint exactly where those fuel breaks might go. And then we have these pods here. And then there's other projects here that were done by the American Forest Foundation, My Sierra Woods project, that are looking for maintenance. So there's all of those types of little details happening within there. And it's really just using all of the base data sets. There's a bunch of stuff that's off here in this layer manager that they use for the assessment piece, and then slowly start to formalize an area of interest with the exact projects and treatments. Does that answer your question?
Yes, that does. Thank you.
Sure.
Right, we're running a little short on time, but I think we have time for one more question that came through the chat. This says, a lot of these data sets are regional or state level, but I'm assuming this platform is not open source. What kind of process or cost is involved in, for example, getting this operating for Nevada or Sierra counties? Or can organizations reach out to 34 North for access to this platform for regions beyond your focal counties? Oh, Amy, you're muted again.
All right, I'm going old school. Okay.
There you go.
So the Sacramento River Watershed Data Program has been set up to steward these portals in the areas. So it's obviously been, we found, working best on a per county or a collaborative basis where, you know, the amount of acreage under that is being analyzed isn't super huge, and you don't have so much data that it becomes overwhelming for the stakeholders trying to assess. So the watershed program has separate efforts to fund and maintain and keep all of these portals running. Also, what's happened is many of the stakeholders are starting to add a small portion of grants to continue to contribute to these programs as they write them. So future grants, there's a small portion, usually based on the need of what the collaborative or county or group needs, and that's included in their grant writing process. Alternatively, people have used just discretionary budgets like the water boards in Battle Creek to fund it, and then CCI grants. But the undertaking of getting everything in one place and ready to go has expenses associated with it because it's a lot of legwork, and then it starts to become part of the larger program. And so anytime any updates or features are made through one of the other programs, like analyzing LiDAR data in a certain way or asking certain questions about data, it's shared with everyone in the network. So reaching out to myself or Holly is a good next step. And we will, like I said, if you want access to look and use this one, just reach out to Allison and we will work with her to set up accounts.
This is Jeff. That's awesome. Thanks so much.
Sure.
Great. Well, thanks again, Holly and Amy. This is great. And I think, will we be able to, I guess, share slides, share Holly's slides, and then if people want access, Amy, like you just said, we'll collect a list and you can get them set up. And of course, if you have any more questions, feel free to send them our way, and we can get Holly and Amy to answer them.
Well, have a good weekend. Thank you so much for the opportunity, Allison and Andrew. Appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
Thanks, Holly. All right. Well, yes, it is time for us to move on. So with that presentation fresh in your mind, we're going to head over now to some smaller breakout room groups, so you guys can get the blood flowing a little, get chatting a little more. I think this function worked well at the last meeting. Just kind of, yeah, like I said, getting some networking going and some more active conversation. So for anyone who hasn't used Zoom's breakout room function before, basically I'm going to click a few buttons and everyone will be randomly sorted into groups of about 4 people, 3 to 4 people, I believe. So you'll be automatically sent to your virtual room for, I think we'll do 8 minutes this time. We're getting a little tight on time. So we'll do 8 minutes. You'll see a countdown timer showing how much time you have left, and then you will be automatically brought back to this main group. And just one thing to keep in mind also is that I'll post the question, the prompt we have for you in the chat box before we head over there. But anything that you type in the chat box while you're in the breakout group, it's only going to be visible to your room. No one else will be able to see it, including us, the facilitators. So don't try to contact us that way. We'll try to pop in and out though if we have a chance. So let's see. I was going to try to share my screen real quick, just to get a question up there. Is that working? Think so? We'll try. Okay, so anyway, while we get these breakout rooms set up, I just want you guys to take a minute now to think about what tools or processes you currently use for mapping and project planning, and what works great about your process and your tools, and what could be improved. So take a minute to think about this, write down your answers or keep them in the front of your mind, and we'll break out into small groups in a couple minutes once I have this, once I get them set up. There we go. Yeah, so hopefully you had a good chance to think about your planning and mapping tools. And I just want to say we're asking these questions because in general, we want a main focus of this network to be about resource sharing. And so if there's a common resource that we can identify through some of these discussions, I think we have the ability as a group to either find say the right tool, or if what we need doesn't exist, we can develop something collaboratively. So going to break out into the rooms now. So your actual prompt, I'm going to paste into the chat box right now. So if the Yuba Forest Network were to put together a watershed scale forest health map or other technical tool, what information and what tools would be most useful to you? All right, well, welcome back, everyone. How did that go? Yeah. Looks like we got everyone back now. It also looks like we lost quite a few people right when we broke out into the small group. So we have a lot cozier group now to have a good little conversation with. So we're coming up, getting close to the end of the meeting, but I want to take just a few minutes real quick to talk about anything that came up in your small group discussions, anything you want to talk about as a larger group. So yeah, if we're thinking about tools, or either whether it's maps or some other technical tool or planning process, what came up for you guys?
This is Jeff. I can go. So one of the things that we kind of kept coming back to in our brief little chat was sometimes these tools, like the one that we just saw, are really exciting because of how much data is there. And There's just so many possibilities of what you can pull from that. But I think keeping in mind the user end and keeping in mind what the data means is important. So not just throwing a ton of data out, but actually having the data be structured and useful in a way that can actually guide these projects. You don't want to have like data overload, basically.
Yeah. Great.
I'm gonna tie into what Jeff was saying, because yeah, we're tracking the same, and I think also when people can use the data themselves, it sort of empowers them to use that data to do work on the ground, and I think that's important. Like I know there's a lot of interest right now in prioritization on a larger scale. But when we prioritize, sometimes we don't see things from the mapping view that our communities would see from their perspective. And so if we can share that with them, we might be able to empower them to like at least rise up in those more landscape level prioritizations.
Great.
So I had a thought, which is that, you know, it takes a lot of money and some grants to do all this, putting these platforms together, which we don't necessarily have right now. But I think there are things that we could potentially do as a network that are kind of low budget things that are moving us in that direction, such as we could have a hub for sharing GIS layers. You know, if somebody has like a countywide slope layer or something like that could be added, just so that we're not all just starting from scratch. You know, admittedly, it would make it so that only people who have GIS capabilities can use that tool, but it's a starting point, I guess.
I like that.
We talked a little bit in our group about, without a lot of clarity on really, but on the Tahoe Central Sierra Initiative data that will at some point be released from TNC and Sierra Nevada Conservancy, and their whole wildfire risk assessment and modeling across the landscape. Those products could eventually be really useful for this group, I think, once they're kind of out and in an understandable format that we could share with people.
Okay. Any other thoughts for right now? I think we do need to get moving on a little.
I actually think that, you know, as a network, we should think about what kind of grant funding might be out there for this kind of effort. I mean, the entire Yuba watershed might be something that's too big to break off, but maybe for a smaller chunk. I know that Jen Tamo at the county was interested in trying to take a more coordinated approach to CCI grants, with the county kind of acting as a lead. So maybe this is something I know the CWPP for Nevada County needs to be updated. So maybe this is something that we could all work together on.
Great. Okay, great. Well, if there's nothing more on that, we're getting tight on time. We were hoping for a little bit of feedback also on these quarterly meetings in general. You know, is this format working for you? And what types of information would you actually like to see be shared at these quarterly meetings, because we want to make these as useful as possible. So if anyone has input on that, go ahead and share it now. And we're also always open to feedback later on too. Email us or call us, anything. But any thoughts on that for the moment?
For me, I think it's actually kind of what we're talking about here, is like having a tool in place, a central repository of even just projects, whether it's boundaries of the projects or what the project is. So there's so many people working in disparate little areas that I think it'd be awesome to just go to one place and be like, all right, they're working here on this, I'm going to call them, that kind of thing. So I think this is going in a great direction for that.
Good to hear. Are there any other topics or specifics you guys would like, say the next meeting or two? Specifics? If not, we can move on also.
Well, I'll give you an affirmation that I think at least your format, I know we all love meeting in person, but this might be the best that we can do. And it also sort of allows us to participate wherein we may not have a day to drive to a centralized location anyhow, right? But I think your format in terms of having a presentation, having some things to sort of consider as a group, we can all sort of enjoy the situational awareness of what other people are doing. And then I think your incorporation of the breakout groups was at least nice to create some of that interaction. So I'd like to give you that affirmation, at least on your format.
Good. Thank you, Ryan. Yeah, the breakout rooms are a little different, but part of the point of this project is networking. And that, I think, is when we have a larger group, that's the best we can do right now. So.
And yeah, Allison, I think you had on your agenda to have like project report outs or something, but I think that would be a useful thing just to kind of hear short updates from people about what everybody's working on.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, and actually that's maybe a good segue into announcements. We have just a couple minutes left, but if anyone has announcements about either events or we had this idea also for if you have an interest in, say, a communal resource. I know we've been talking about mapping, but other things, almost we call it kind of a want ad. You say, hey, I have an idea, but I want to collaborate with someone on that. Any thoughts there? Any announcements? And again, we can post these on the website also to get it out there. Nope, hearing none.
I have a quick.
Oh, yes.
So actually, I talked to Jamie and Andrew about this at one of the last in-person events that was able to happen before all this was going on. But something that we had done in the past through Sierra Streams Institute was what we called Nevada City Lab, where we just kind of got together and went over a random paper of interest relevant to some topics that we were interested in. And it seems like this is kind of a long haul thing where we're not going to be able to meet in person. And so I was just going to kind of throw it out there even to this group that we were talking about kind of having a forest specific Nevada City Lab. Like we would just, whether on Zoom or whatever, get together, have a beer, talk about a paper, and it could be a paper relevant to some of these projects we're working on. So if people are interested, I would like to get that going again.
Great. I actually like that idea.
Yeah, I'd love to get on board. That'd be great.
So maybe I'll just send a note to you guys. I'll send Andrew, and then you can just blast it out to the group or something.
Sounds good. We'll get it on the calendar.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I have an announcement. I also coordinate for the Sierra and Eastside Regional Prioritization Group, which meets the second Friday of every month. And next week, we're actually having John Keeley speak on, he's a researcher who will be speaking on climate change and population dynamics related to wildfire in California. So it should be a really good conversation there. And if anyone would like to join that group, I manage the roster for it. So just let me know. It's an open invitation every month, but you do have to receive the invitation to attend. So. and it's part of the Governor's Forest Management Task Force as a smaller entity. I know Jamie and Chris, you attend, but if anyone else is interested.
Great. Any other announcements? All right, well, we are right up on 11:30, so we want to respect your guys' time. The only thing we had left on the agenda were to figure out some next steps. I think we, just real quick, if you haven't done it yet, please go fill out the directory. We'll notify everyone who's shown interest in subgroups about those meetings coming up in the next couple weeks. And then also, let me go to the last slide here. Our next quarterly meeting is November 6th, first Friday of every third month at 10 a.m. So yeah, thank you guys. Thank you everyone for being here and hanging in there. And yeah, if you have any thoughts, as always, please feel free to reach out, and we'll be sending out meeting notes very soon. Andrew, did you have anything else to wrap up?
No, thanks so much for sticking with us. I mean, yeah. You're in the minority, but I hope it was useful. And I think next time maybe we'll try and have some of these conversations early on, just because I think it does sort of facilitate some buy-in. So, and as Ryan said, you know, we're all kind of craving some interaction, even if this is subpar interact, but you know, the screen time, more screen time. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you guys for organizing.
Thank you, everyone.
All right.
Thanks,
Yeah,
everybody.
have a great weekend.